Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Tata Steel, the Masters section, round 10. We've made it to round 10. Only 3 rounds left after this. This is a very long tournament, very grueling tournament. 14 players, single round robin. Gukesh, once again, we start off with. He's facing Yagiz Kaan Erdogmus. We know Gukesh has had an up and down tournament, but once again, he has shown the resilience of World Champion. Suffered defeat yesterday to one of his potential challengers. But now today he can bounce back against a young Turkish prodigy who in the future could be a world champion, could be in Gukesh's very position. We get e4, e5, knight f3, knight to c6, and now knight to c3. And as I've told you before, when you see the 4 knights, could be a draw very quickly. And yet, I'm covering more and more games where a draw is not what's happening. So, bishop to b5. Bishop to b4, short castles, knight to d5, takes, pawn takes, and now e4. Very sharp from both players. We get knight to e1. I've now got no games left in the database. Yagiz Kaan Erdogmus clearly knows what's going on. He spent next to no time. Gukesh is already down on time on move 8. Knight to d4, and now a4. Very interesting idea. If you take my bishop, I take back with the pawn, I open up the rook. And that's what we get. So Gukesh evaluates that this is fine. He can just play c6, I play c3, kick out the bishop, and now I play d3. You can take here, I play queen b3, this is hit. You can't really defend it, you can push it. But Gukesh simply chooses to play d6. We get queen takes d5, rook to e8, pawn takes e4, bishop to e6, queen to d3, and now queen to c7. And Gukesh has more than stabilized this position. But look, ladies and gentlemen, at the time after move 16. Yagiz Kaan Erdogmus is up a pawn. He's down to 23 minutes for another 24 moves. Gukesh has got 57 minutes. Despite the fact that Gukesh was down on time in the opening, he has forced Yagiz to think. Now we get bishop to e3, spending another couple of minutes. We get this trade, and now bishop to c4. The knight comes to d3, but black picks up that pawn. White's no longer up the pawn anymore. We get rook f to e1, but now d5. Look at this. You take, you lose your queen. The tactic's just working out for Gukesh. We get queen to c5, looking for a trade. No trade. I can play knight to b4, but simply pawn takes. And now what do you have? You can play c4, that's fine. I'll play bishop a4. And if you play queen a5, I'll play bishop b3. And Gukesh is slightly better. Knight to d5 now, pawn takes c4. Gukesh is now up 2 pawns. From being a pawn down, he's now up 2 pawns. Knight to b6, very clever idea here. If takes, which is what happens, Gukesh invites this endgame. He invites queen takes a8 is what's played, and now h6. No, what was played? So queen takes a8, and then bishop to a6 is what Yagiz Kaan Erdogmus played. So is what Gukesh played, and he's worse. Yagiz Kaan is completely winning. As I was saying, you can't take because you effectively mate yourself. You would have to sack the queen and you mate yourself. You can't play h6. It's also a blunder. Bishop a6. The only there's a couple of holding moves here. So you can play queen c6. You can play h6. You can play h5, and you can play bishop to d3. So we get a takes b6. Queen takes a8, bishop a6. Now rook takes a6 is wrong. The only winning move here is to play rook ad1, to bring the rook this way and get in this way. That was the only winning move. He misses it, and now Gukesh is better. And Gukesh is up a pawn, and now he has to convert this endgame with lots of practical play, and he gets to this position, which should always be better for black. He, simplifies, he keeps his pawn. He's got a 3-on-2 on the king side. Trading rooks is winning, always for him. And Yagiz Kaan in low time starts to make a couple of mistakes. He really spent his time, and as I said, rook trade, worse. You can't trade the rooks, and after king c5, Yagiz has to resign, because if he gives another check, I'm going to go here. And then this pawn's going to come down the board, and even if we trade rooks, I've got this 3 on 2 and I win. Completely victorious. Now, there were a lot of different results. One that I want to focus on is really cool. It's Arvind versus tie-dye. And this game, we're not going to analyze too in depth. It was a Petrov. What is fascinating is that Arvind here goes down a piece completely. He goes down a piece very early on, relatively speaking. There's a couple of trades. And what we get is the fact that we get this. We trade the rooks. And what's the name? Just here, check. Queen comes back. Defends the bishop. And we get this trade. Completely symmetrical. Endgame should be a draw. Bishop and knight versus bishop and knight. Bishop is on the same color, so maybe white's got some advantage. And what happens is really, really funny. Arvind goes down a piece at some point here. I'm just looking for it. They continue to jostle around in the endgame for a bit. And where was it that he lost the piece? It was... They shuffled their kings around, threatened repetition. Tie-dye continued to play, on, and, Arvind's just happy to continue to shuffle his king back and forth. Like, if you notice as I'm going through the moves, he continues to shuffle his king back and forth. And eventually, to make some kind of breakthrough, he reroutes his knight. He pushes the pawn all the way through, and king e2 loses because of, not because of g4, the best move, g4, sorry. And now he plays knight takes b7. He just sacrifices the knight because he thinks this is winning. He gets here. And he's not... I mean, he's wrong. He's completely wrong. But there's a couple of blunders each way, and now it's a draw. And he manages to actually convert this endgame. Down a full piece, he just pushes through his pawns, and this bishop's trapped. It can't really get out to anywhere useful. Black's pawns are always isolated. You have to sack the knight, and then I'll be completely fine. I'll push this pawn through and promote. And Arvind, after sacrificing a knight, wins the game. One final game that was relevant to the standings, and that was this game, Anish Giri versus Matthias Bluebaum. Now, the major players in the title race drew. So the winner of this game throws themselves right into the mix, Anish Giri and Matthias Bluebaum. It was a modern defense / King's Indian defense. Early trade of the bishop from Anish. He likes playing these interesting systems. And what he does is he leaves white with this structure. That's the structure he thinks is going to be useful for him. And what he does is he ends up, firstly, he gets his knight to g7, the fianchettoed knight. Not too dissimilar to the style of the rat, although the rat's probably this and this, right? But sometimes you can, I think sometimes you go here, and then you fianchetto the knight, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, f5, queen out, and he just goes for Bluebaum's king. But it's not so simple. h5 now is a mistake, because the knight comes back to g2, you have to take, and the queen almost gets trapped here. In fact, borderline trapped. Takes, knight comes in, queen comes in, and Bluebaum is just completely winning. The queen has to be sacrificed to get the rook, but it's never enough, and bishop to g5, and in 25 moves, Anish Giri was defeated. And that's kind of how things stand. We're going to shift tabs now. A very short recap today. And look at the standings, because they're very important. With just 3 rounds to go, we have still Nodirbek Abdusattorov as the leader on 6.5 points, but he is now trailed by only half a point, and he is his challengers are Yakovar Sandarov, Jordan van Forest, and Matthias Bluebaum, who scored that victory over Anish Giri. Half a point behind them are 2 players, Hans Niemann and Yagiz Kaan Erdogmus. He, of course, was just half a point behind, but Nodirbek gained that point, and Yagiz Kaan lost to Gukesh, who is on 5. Him, Fedoseev, and Vincent Keymer all on 5 out of 10, 50%. Then there's Anish Giri and Pragdananda, both on -1. Arjun on 4. Arvind, who picks up a victory, nice to 3.5, and tie-dye up to 3. So, very interesting indeed. Now, if we look at the game results, just to confirm for you everything that happened, this is round 1. We want to go to round 10, where we had Nodirbek Abdusattorov drawing with Fedoseev, Gukesh defeating Yagiz, a draw between Hans and Prague, a draw between Sandarov and Van Forest, Bluebaum defeating Anish, Arvind defeating tie-dye, and Vincent Keymer scoring a victory over Arjun. Now, round 11 is very interesting because Jordan van Forest is playing Nodirbek Abdusattorov, and he's, of course, chasing him. Sandarov has got the black pieces against Arjun. Hans has got the black pieces against tie-dye. And then Bluebaum has got the black pieces against Fedoseev. So Van Foreest could really take advantage. If he scores a decisive victory and Sandarov and Bluebaum and Hans don't win any of their games, he can take the lead. And that'll be very important. Of course, round 12, we've got Nodirbek versus Bluebaum. We have got Van Foreest versus Arjun, Sandarov versus Prague, Hans versus Gukesh, which will be very interesting indeed. And then it all ends in the final round. Nodirbek Abdusattorov has got the black pieces to Arjun Erigaisi. Sandarov has got the black pieces to tie-dye. Bluebaum has got the white pieces to face Yagiz Kaan Erdogmus. And then, of course, Van Foreest has got the black pieces against Pragnanda. This is, of course, on Sunday, the 1st of February. So, if Nodirbek wants to win Tata Steel, he has to go through Van Foreest, Bluebaum, and Arjun Erigaisi. It's not going to be easy for him to win all of this, and he can definitely be caught. But he is the front runner at the moment. And that's the state of things after 10 rounds of Tata Steel.